Jason Greer, welcome to the conversation today.
Hey, thanks for having me. It's a pleasure.
It is a pleasure to be with you. You're joining us from North Carolina. I'm south of Salt Lake
Right.
City in Utah. Today, we're going to be talking about navigating employee relations in the modern world. We live in volatile times, I think it's fair to say.
Mhm.
It's really interesting in the current landscape of the workplace, equal employment opportunity, diversity, equity, inclusion, uh, whatever kind of framing you would like to use, given the current political landscape, cultural landscape in the U.S. and abroad. It's a challenging time, I think, for organizations. It's a challenging time for workers and employees. Everyone's trying to figure out how to navigate in what tends to be a bit of a minefield, I think, for a lot of people.
Yes.
And so I'm thrilled to have the chance to sit down with you and have a nice conversation and explore this topic. As we get started, I wanted to share Jason's bio with everybody. Jason Greer is the founder and president of Greer Consulting, a labor management and employee relations consulting firm based in St. Louis. As a nationally recognized expert in the field, Jason is a trusted source of information on the latest race and labor relations news for media outlets, including the Wall Street Journal, Forbes, and Fox News Radio. He provides valuable insights into breaking stories such as the George Floyd moment, racial protests, and diversity issues in the workplace. And that's really just scratching the surface of like your professional background and currently what you're working on. But I'm going to pause there. Anything you would like to highlight by way of your background or personal context before we dive on into the conversation?
Yeah, no worries, man. So I'm very, very proud to say this, that for literally since 2024, my company, Greer Consulting, Inc., one of the top 5% of labor and employee relations consultants in the country. We just expanded into Dubai.
Mm.
And prayers go out to what's going on in Dubai as well as what's going on really around the world. But man, we've been able to do some really big things, and it's exciting times. Exciting times to be in the world of labor and employee relations.
Exciting times, challenging times, complicated
Yes,
times. I think the world is a bit of a mess. I think it's fair to say. Uh,
yeah,
certainly messy, right? Certainly complicated. Um, and and yeah, as you indicated, like it's not just a domestic issue, right? It's not just in the U.S. This is a global phenomenon. I think all throughout the world. People, governments, organizations are grappling with these sorts of issues and trying to figure
mhm,
out, how to better navigate them. And I like to remind people this is from multiple layers. Like there's the legal component, like legal compliance stuff, right? And that's really important. You need to maintain legal compliance, but there's more than that. Like there's the legal compliance stuff, but there's also just like being good stewards in the workplace, like treating your employees well. There's the business case around that. There's the human case around that, and there's the kind of the moral and ethical components of just like what does it mean to to be good moral stewards in the workplace and to treat human beings with dignity and respect, right?
yes,
And all of these things, I mean, maybe it sounds simple, and you're like, oh, of course, we want to treat everyone with dignity and respect, and we want everyone to feel needed, wanted, valued, in that they have opportunities to contribute in meaningful ways in the workplace each and every day. Like that sounds obvious and that sounds easy, yet it doesn't always show up easy, and we often have tensions in how all that shows up. And that's where folks like you come in and you're able to help us navigate that when it comes to various laws and policies, practices, and procedures within the workplace. Hopefully, we can do it in a way that is genuine and authentic and a way that also helps us navigate sometimes sticky legal uh, places and ultimately helps treat people well, in the process.
absolutely, absolutely. I think you said some you made some really salient points. I think that ultimately what we're finding today, we live in this day and age in which technology drives everything, and we're so interconnected. I mean, you're in Salt Lake City. I'm in North Carolina. We're having this conversation, and this was the thing of science fiction movies 60 years ago, right?
Yeah.
Yet in this day and age of interconnectedness, we are so disconnected. And the challenge is that we have workspaces that are made up of human beings. Human beings, and every single human being has their own story. But it used to be my story was, internally driven by the environment that I grew up in, my neighborhood, my suburb, my hood, whatever the case might be, my parents, whatever stories were told to me as a child, whatever stories are constantly being told to me as an adult. These days, we have this world of interconnectedness from a global perspective. So that what happens, we talked about Dubai, what happens in Dubai directly impacts what happens to you in Utah, directly impacts what happens to me in North Carolina. We have the world of work in which we're seeing automation moving at the speed of thought, at the speed of light, to the point where workers who were really good, really comfortable, really felt like there's no way the organization can replace me because my subject matter expertise is so strong they need me, are now being replaced by robots, are now being replaced by artificial intelligence, are now being replaced by the latest, greatest gizmos. And you're finding that so many of those employees are now coming back into the world asking, all right, if my skill set is not necessary today, am I going to be necessary? Right? And how do I up level? So I'm just seeing all of these fundamental changes that are happening. And as an employee and labor relations consultant, it's my challenge to make sure that organizations stay healthy, that employees stay healthy, and that organizations remember they really still need human beings.
Yes. Organizations run on humans.
Yes.
Creativity, innovation happens via humans. Customer service, customer loyalty, which drives revenue, that happens via humans, right? And so
Yes.
all these tools can help us with efficiencies, and it can help us be more productive. It can even enhance and augment maybe our creativity and allow us to speed up our innovation cycles and things like that. But ultimately, it really are the humans within the organizations that are going to allow us to do these things. And so, with all of the pundits, talking about AI and job displacement and all of these
Mm-hmm.
different things, like you have the spectrum, like you have all the Chicken Littles, like the sky is falling, and every total dystopian kind of prognostications happening, which I think is a little bit silly. um you have that on one extreme, you have other kind of utopian kind of extremes being proposed out there too. The reality is it's most likely going to fall somewhere in between. And really we just need to better learn how to adapt to how to use these tools and not throw people under the bus in the process. Um, I'm trying to remember, was it Block that just announced 50% layoffs?
Yeah,
Um,
40% layoffs. 40%
40
layoffs with
40% layoffs. I don't know all the details behind that decision, right? And none of us
Mhm.
do, in terms of, all the reasons that went behind that. But, I do have questions and I do have suspicions around like what might have been driving that. And I just, I can't help but think, is that a little hasty? Given that we haven't been able to see the full realization of productivity gains from AI, and companies are laying off lots and lots of folks, um, for the promise of these AI productivity gains, and we still need humans. Like we fundamentally need humans in order to not only leverage the full potential of AI augmentation, but also just fundamentally, to do right by people, like in society. I
Mhm.
think there's those bigger questions as well. So, when I saw that news, I'm just like, okay, like I think there's really some really important questions that we need to be asking, and we need to be exploring, from an organizational level, also from a societal level. That may be bigger than what this conversation is all about today, but it does influence the kind of stuff we're talking about, right? And
Mhm.
ultimately, it impacts, it certainly influences the fears that the average employee has, right, in the average organization. So you go into any organization today and you talk to the average employee who just read the news about this XYZ company laying off all these people because of AI, and there's no wonder, that we have this anxiety around displacement. And so what are organizations doing to reassure people and to help people feel that they matter, and helping them to know how they can contribute in meaningful ways. What are organizations doing, to reinforce that right now? I think that's a really important question, in addition to, other kind of traditional EEO and DEI and compliance types of conversations that might be happening in the space as well.
Essentially, because when you brought up Block, and I think Block is owned by Jack Dorsey, the founder of Twitter, which is now X. What's fascinating is that we're talking about it, right? He makes this announcement, or find out that Block is laying off 40% with, I think, additional 20% coming, right, in terms of layoffs, and it makes the national, international news. Well, that's a big deal, especially, and I don't know if Block is publicly traded, but I do know it has shareholders, right? So that's a really big deal, because now we're starting to make money because the revenue is going up, right? The visibility around the company is going up. And I've generally said this because we deal with a ton of companies. In terms of my work, we deal with a ton of companies that are going through or have gone through layoffs. And one of the things that you can honestly see happen is you see a number of companies. I'm going to use Google as an example because Google is one of the big dogs, right? Google was laying people off. Microsoft laid people off. They didn't really have to. They could still afford to keep those employees, but they decided to do it for a couple of reasons. One, they felt like there were redundancies in place. So let's get rid of folks, especially folks that we had hired over the course of COVID, right? Another thing is that the market rewards layoffs. So it's one of those things that, as we hear more and more employers, because I'll give you an example. One of my clients, he comes to me, let's say this about maybe a year and a half ago, and said, Jason, within the next 5 years, you and I are going to need to sit down and start talking about what is the fundamental plan for our organization. Because with the way AI is coming in, with the way automation is already here, I think we're going to have to lay off maybe about 20% of our staff in the next 5 years. Only for him to call me 3 months ago and legitimately say, our 5-year plan, I need you to come in tonight because this AI thing is moving faster than we thought. And instead of 20%, of the people, we're going to end up laying off 40%. And I'm going to need your help, not only communicating that to the staff, but also communicating that to my sister-in-law, to my brother-in-law, to my nephew, because these are people that work for his organization, right? That was very uncomfortable. But these are the types of conversations that are happening around the country. And I think that, what I generally tell employers, especially when you're talking about the whole world of AI, be mindful that you're not squirrel chasing the light. Because how many organizations have adopted AI? How many organizations have adopted automation because they're trying to keep up with the competitors? They're trying to keep up with the field, or maybe they watch CNBC, maybe they watch Fox and, Fox Business News, and they happen to hear, the latest, greatest company has adapted the latest, greatest technology. Therefore, they think they have to do that for themselves. Here's what is happening, though, from an employer perspective. And I pause because I hate making the statement, but I'm going to make the statement because I have to say this as objectively as I possibly can. Employers are not really worried about laying off employees these days, and here's why. They're not worried about laying off employees for automation, because if the automation doesn't work, they know that it's a very good chance that those employees are still going to be in the market. And it's not like I have to go back and rehire them for, $30,000 or $40,000 more than what they were being paid before. I can actually offer them the same jobs, the same employee package, same benefits package, same salary package, and they're probably going to take it because the market is not hot right now. So it's one of those things, especially as you talked about the humanity behind all things that we do in organizations in corporate America, not-for-profits, whatever the case might be. I really wish that organizations, and I really, really say this to my clients, and I'll say this to anybody and everybody who's listening, understand that the person that you lay off tomorrow might be you, or today might be you tomorrow. So how you want to be treated, please treat that person or those persons with the same type of respect that you want to get tomorrow.
Yes, yes. I think that is a very wise statement. There's broader macro kind of implications for all of this too. If everyone starts laying off 40%, of employees, what does that mean for consumer demand around the products and services, that every company is providing? All of a sudden that
Mm.
gets depressed, and all of a sudden, I don't know, there's all sorts of implications economically, for
Yeah,
for
but
the country overall.
yeah, can I say something to that though?
Yeah.
Here's part of the challenge. We're to blame. And when I say we're to blame, I'm not talking, HR professional to employee relations professional. I'm talking about consumer to consumer. We're to blame because we want these things faster and faster and faster and faster. And if the human being can't get me my quilt for my bed, if the human being can't get me my, I'm a big pro wrestling fan, so my WWE title belt, you know, and AI can get it there faster, I want AI to do it. So it's one of those things we can put the blame and we can put the onus on corporations, but corporations are only doing what the market demands. And we are the market, and we're driving this need and this push for this kind of efficiency that oftentimes eclipses what human beings are capable of doing.
Yeah. It's almost, we've created like this downward spiral, right?
Yes.
Something's gonna have to give. And that gets to broader kind of societal public policy, kind of conversations, and we'll see. Like there's a lot that's gonna have to happen and change, I think, in the coming years, if we're gonna come out of this, in a more positive way. There's
Agreed.
different lanes we could go in this whole like AI automation, world. And
Yeah.
I'm a believer that we'll get it figured out, and that we're not going to go slip into some total dystopian type of future. But there are going to be growing pains along the way, and it is going to be challenging. So to your point, like, let's just remember the humanity around this. And like, if I'm an executive, uh, all the way down through middle management or whatever, and I can just remember, like, yeah, I could be the next one. I could be the next one that's
Yeah.
laid off. Just remember that, and just remember, to not play fast and loose with the lives of my people.
Yes.
And just, you, to your point, absolutely, it's a soft labor market. Like if very much in the minds of executives, I can lay these people off. I can probably hire them right back when I need them, if and when I need them. Um,
Yes.
that very well may be true, but man, that hurts a lot of people in the meantime, and that also erodes a lot of trust. It erodes a lot of um, commitment from the people who stay behind at your organization. That has a lot of
Yes.
other impacts on the organization. So there's all these other factors that go into it, and I know, like you said, the market really rewards layoffs. Like when we
Yes, it
talk
does.
about the short termism in the market, and we talk about quarterly earnings reports and shareholders and all of that, 100%, it absolutely rewards layoffs. Like that's a really good signal to shareholders and to markets. Um, but we can't just look at the short term. Like we have to look a little bit longer term, and we have to look at other impacts. So let's not allow that all that other stuff to be lost. As we're considering
Agreed.
all of these things. I note the time, and I'm going to have to let you go here in a few minutes. But before we wrap up, any other aspects of all of this and kind of this future of work, this modern world of work as we move into the future of work, that organizations and leaders should be thinking about as they're trying to navigate employee relations, that you see as
Yeah.
really kind of a hot topic?
Absolutely. The biggest thing that I say to employees, but also say to employers, is upskill, upskill, upskill. Ask
Mm.
yourself, if I'm an employee, are the skill sets that I bring to the table today, are they going to be valuable tomorrow? But also from an employer standpoint, if you put all of your bet on AI being the future of work, you better make sure you're right. Because if you're not, you're going to have a bunch of employees that you let go, or employees that you kept on that you completely disregarded, who now all of a sudden their skills are not at the level that you're going to need them to be at in order to survive the coming tomorrow. So it's one of those things that be careful that even if you have your present and your future set on AI, your present and future set on automation, be mindful that you're also preparing the employees that you hope to be able to keep for what might come tomorrow.
Yeah, yeah, very well said. Jason, this has just been a great conversation. Again,
Hey, thank you.
unfortunately, I know at the time I need to let you get on with your busy day, but as we close, I just wanted to give you a chance to share with the audience how they can connect with you, find out more about your work, your team, and then any final word that you may have for today.
Absolutely. If you're ever in need of an employee and labor relations consultant, especially if you're going through some type of union organizing drive and you're hoping to remain union free, give us a call. In addition, if you have any kind of employee relations challenges, you can always find us at hiregci.com. I'm very, very active on LinkedIn, so please connect with me. And anything we can do to help, we'll definitely be there. And I think the biggest thing is this: remember, people will work for money, but they will die for respect and they will die for recognition. But how you want to be recognized might be different than how the next person wants to be recognized. And how you want to be respected might be different than the next person wants to be respected. So take the time to get to know people's story. Thanks so much for having me on. It's such a pleasure.
Great closing comments. I absolutely agree. Thank you, Jason. It's been a real pleasure. I encourage the audience to reach out, get connected, find out more about what Jason can do for you. And as always, I hope everyone can stay healthy and safe. They can find meaning and purpose each and every day. You all have a great